So strap in and get ready.
The leaders in AFL SuperCoach are incoming, helping you win your leagues and climb up the rankings.
You're now listening to the Insight AFL Show with your hosts, Big Horse and Skitty.
Good evening and welcome to the Inside AFL Show. I'm your host, The Horse, and with me tonight we've got two special guests. One, he's been a staple of the Insight community for the past 3 or 4 months. He spells his name in numbers. He is that good at SuperCoach. I'll speak of none other than Hurls. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, mate. I don't know if the numbers will fit on the screen this year, though, with the ranking blowing out a little bit, but that's okay.
And we've got a very special guest with us tonight. So some of you will have seen his YouTube show, and if you haven't already, go across and subscribe to that as well. But there's a guy who, for me, rivals Tom Jones and Vin Diesel in the depths of his voice and his tones. I speak of none other than the RookieCoach. Welcome, mate. How are you?
I'm good. How can I not be good after hearing that intro and those comparisons? My Lord.
Oh, mate, you've got both of them for looks, but those deep, dulcet tones of your voice gets everyone going on a Wednesday night before SuperCoach kicks off for the week.
Oh, that's what I like to hear, and that's what I'm here for.
And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we've got something different tonight. So Squiddy's at home with the family. Best wishes to you and the family, Squid. But with Cone of the Week this week, we've got something pretty special coming to you this week. So you're going to want to stand by for that. But what we've got in store tonight, we've got our Squeeze of the Week. We've got a preview of all 9 rounds, some very big ins and outs that are happening this week. Cone of the Week, questions, and a lot more. But before we get into it, like, subscribe, bell, and the thumbs up. We would really appreciate that. But also, if you're listening to us on audio, give us that 5-star review. It helps get us out into the algorithm that is AFL SuperCoach and gets us into the ears of the AFL SuperCoach-minded people that love a bit of banter with their knowledge. Now, tonight, our show is going to be brought to you by Draftstars, who are Australia's #1 site for daily fantasy sport. Download the Draftstars app right now to compete against other sports fans across Australia and New Zealand for huge prize pools. There is no season-long commitment and new contests to join every day. There is nothing like the thrill of Draftstars. To sign up to Australia's leaders in DFS, use a link in the description below. It's the best way to support us. Remember, this is not fantasy. This is Draftstars. So each week, Hurls, we've been running a Draftstars comp, and we're actually very lucky that with Draftstars now, they're running a guaranteed prize pool each week for Insight Fantasy members only.
Yeah, we've found something that Deadly's quite good at, which is really good. So he'll be watching it.
SuperCoach, is he?
But he's I think he's won 2 comps in a row, and I came second and third in the last 2. But the more the merrier. We want to get a massive crew in there. I think we've had about probably averaging about 16 people in our little private comps that go on each day over the weekend. So if we can get that up to 20, 30, it'd be bloody awesome.
Oh, absolutely. If you like your Draftstars, get involved. The link is in the description below, and we've got special leagues that we run that only Insight Fantasy Sports members can enter. So very exclusive comps they are. RookieCoach, if you're not in Draftstars, you will be by the end of the show as well, mate.
Oh, you can guarantee it.
Absolutely. Mate, we're going to kick things off. So we're talking about the Flag Dons versus the Flagroos. And for those that follow the show know that Squiddy and I have a long-standing battle in the Kangaroos versus Essendon and who is the worst of the teams. Essendon, who haven't won a final in about 3 million days, versus the Kangaroos, who Kane Corns loves to rag out every opportunity he gets. Before we get stuck into the game itself, Rookie, how do you see this one going?
Look, I honestly think Dons need a win. They haven't been playing the best lately, and look, they look like they need the confidence boost. I've heard Sardis season might be starting out. It's those that have been listening to some of the folks in the community love Sardis, and
yes,
I think he needs a bit of a shot to get back into the team. Bit of a worry. Don't look at him as an option. Chill is being rested. Caldwell's coming back after next week, but exciting times for him to get another run. From North, though, they have had hot moments during their games. They've had little purple patches, and sometimes they just can't crack it. What's Clarko doing with Sheasel with the swing and the roll? And then you have Kane Corns going off at it and Sheasel defending. And I mean, Kane Corns is now banned from the from
Yeah,
the
that's
room.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's I don't know if that's well deserved or if they're just being a little bit more protective of one of their key players. But I honestly do like Dons, but I would love to see North get a win.
Here I am getting rid of Squiddy, and now we get someone else, Hurls, who wants to see the flag Dons get done. But
Oh no.
without Georgie Wardlaw, geez, he's going to be a gun. And North resting him with only 5 days rest, and Curtis being suspended for a fucking tackle, which I think we'll get to later on. As a supporter of Essendon Footy Club, and we play North this week, I hate. You can't suspend someone for a act that is a football act, and I understand that he ended up with a concussion out of it. But Hurls, the AFL are more or less protecting themselves from litigation down the track where they want to show that they're putting something in place for any form of head injuries that happen during a game.
Yeah. I love what Zach Merritt said about it. And his summary was something like there needs to be some kind of clause or common sense in there about football acts. And, you know, there's a potential to cause injury clause, which helps the MRO lift the bans up from 2 to 3 or 1 to 2 or whatever. But there's nothing for something like this where, all right, everyone probably can understand a concussion is trying to be avoided and we're trying to change players' behavior and all of that stuff. But in a football act like this, can we make it 1 maybe? And everyone would have said, all right, we still don't love it, but we sort of get it. We'll move on. 3 weeks or 0 doesn't make a lot of sense. There's not much logic to it.
It doesn't, does it?
Yeah, it's hard. Nah.
So we'll get stuck into the burning questions that we've got here. Is North ever going to beat Essendon ever again? Probably not. So we can move on straight away. No.
Yeah.
North Melbourne will lose by 3 million points. And as we can see here, benching Squid in the IFS round is cowardly horse. It is. I'm sorry. I'm going to hear about it a lot in the next couple of days and weeks, but that's okay. He knows he's my boy. Rookie, should we be jumping on Cherry at all costs given his break even, or does Maley Finbar coming in for his first game impact him?
Look, I don't think it impacts him as much as people are going to be worried about, because Cherry kind of fits that mold of that TDK player where, yes, they generate their points from headouts, but they also generate points from their around ground work. We obviously know Cherry does a lot of tackling work when he's in that really good form. So I don't see anything maybe of some of the pinch hits out. He's going to cut him off in the forward line a little bit maybe, but nothing too crazy. I don't think we're going to see an impact. We don't even know if he's going to be sub or what their flow is, because we've had Curtis obviously suspended. I don't think Finbar's an exact 1-for-1 with that type of player, but I honestly would not be worried. And if you wanted to get Sherry, then yeah, you kind of have to pull the trigger, given that his price is probably going to go through the roof after this week. So get him while you can. And as some would say, get that 3-headed monster in your team and lock it in.
For sure. Hurls, is Sheasel staying at halfback?
I think he probably should. He was more effective at halfback last week than any other game this year, I thought. So I think he probably will. Now, I don't think it'll be permanent with someone like Sheasel. It'll be, there'll be times where they put him through the middle. There'll be times where they put him around the half forward line again. But I think and the selection of no Fisher returning, which is probably should be a given anyway, no matter what, because he's terrible, but means they probably will leave him at halfback, which is great for us in SuperCoach, that's for sure. That's where we want him.
Yep. Can you hear me all right? I just had to reconnect and disconnect my mic. Yep. Awesome. If people still have Pryor and Reed, Rookie, and can only field one, which one would you field? Because last week, I would have thought that given the wet conditions against Collingwood, you'd field Pryor, given that he's got a lower center of gravity, but Reed just comes out and pops off.
See, I thought the exact same thing and end up mistakenly trading out Reed instead of Pryor and paid the price. But this is where Reed is kind of the differential to Pryor, is Reed has more of that influential role and he's looked for more than I would say a Pryor. also you watch them play. Reed isn't afraid to get rough in the contest, whereas Pryor, if you watch him close enough, he doesn't really chase after the ball too much. Isn't really trying to pick up a pace, lay a tackle, and really apply that pressure.
Yep.
So I think Reed is probably the safer bet. It's just the only benefit you have to Pryor. He probably has a safer floor. We haven't seen him really go below a 45, whereas Reed's gone to a 38, I believe, is his lowest score at the moment. So against North, though, I think Reed is still probably up there as just over a Pryor for the moment.
Yeah, for sure. You touched on him before, Rookie, but I'll ask you, Hurls. Zardes, is it the rookie saviour that we need this week, or with the likes of Shield and Caldwell and the likes coming back? What do you think? Is this a trap?
I don't think Caldwell impacts him one bit. Caldwell and Setterfield have the same midfield role, but I do think Shield managed is a concern in that the Shield comes straight back and then Zardes goes out again. I think they've got one spot, those two. And I mean, if I was the coach, I would be prioritising Zardes because of the year Essendon are having and where Essendon are at in their development and all that kind of stuff. I think it's important to play him. But Brad Scott likes the senior blokes. He's proven that time and time again, not just at Essendon, at North Melbourne. So it does worry me. Here's where my head is at. If I could get my upgrade done with Zardes in this week, I might have traded him in, but I can't. So it probably makes my decision for me, and I have to go to someone cheaper. And then the flip of that is, if I thought Zardes was absolutely locked in, going to play 4 in a row, I would not upgrade, and I would go the cash because I need cash. But I'm going to take the safe ground and go, stick to the upgrade, bypass Zardes just because of the uncertainty.
Yeah. I'm 100% with you, mate. Max, I see your question in the chat, mate. We will get to it at the end when we address all questions. And Rookie, you're already winning over fans, mate. I reckon this bloke is an upgrade over Deadly already.
To be fair, they did say that he wants an upgrade over Deadly shortly after that comment, so I'm not sure how much weight's behind that comment. But I mean, I like it. Yeah. I've heard a few comments about bedtime stories, and I feel like there might be room for that at some point. Maybe.
Love to see it. Mate, you've been pretty good with your VC and C options as well this year, which is something we pride ourselves on as well. Is there a VC loop that you're looking at for this game? Is it a cherry, or do you think a merit could pop off here, or where's your mind at?
I think the clear safe VC where you're probably going to get a high, because my opinion on the VC is you try to get a spike score. You're not necessarily trying to take a 120. You're looking for that 130 plus for a VC to really capture that and have a safe backup C. Sherry just highlights all those boxes. We know the ceilings that he can get. He's coming up an old Goldstein, Mr. Grandpa, coming out of the retirement home just to give Essendon a ruck that's not Zach Reed. I think Sherry's a perfect VC if you've got him. Merritt, also good. He's probably due for a bit of a big game. Needs to pretty much put the team on his shoulders and find form. So there's probably going to be a lot of pressure on him as the captain to lead the way. So we can probably expect a big game from him. One a little bit more left field. We've seen the spike scores from Sheasel. It seems like all things are leading to him playing that half-back role. He's been training there this week. So I think if you don't have Sherry or a Merritt, Sheasel is a perfectly fine VC. And I know some of us are going to be looking for those early VCs as well with someone like a Campo or a Boyd playing early, so our loops kind of force us to look a bit early. So if you need someone from Thursday night, go Sheasel if you don't have the other two big guns.
Hurls?
If I had Sherry, I would absolutely be whacking the C on him. I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, I don't know why I keep overthinking VC and C. Just go your 2 ruckmen every week. They're your 2 biggest scorers, so just go whichever one plays first.
100%.
For some people, though, they might not have the ability to do a VC other than this game. If you think about, most people who have Maxi will be thinking about him later on. But because West Coast are my loops, I don't have a Sunday option. So I have to go my VC either Thursday or Friday. I'm a bit reluctant with Merritt, to be completely honest, because I think Phillips tags him now that Phillips is in. I don't know that it'll stop him, but I still think it might stop the 140, which is what we want from a VC. So, yeah, and I don't have Sherry, so I don't know where I'll go.
Yeah, mine will be firmly on Cherry. I have him and Cheezel, but you're coming up against an older Goldstein at Marvel. It's indoors. It's not going to be weather affected. I think Goldstein did well in the wet last week, but the game slowed down because of the conditions. I think if it's fast paced and the ball's moving around, he may be a tad slow, which to me is all signs leading to Cherry. So my tip for this one, Essendon by probably 3,000 goals, Squiddy.
Yeah, 2,000.
Yep. Do you want to go to the next screen, mate, so we can see who's on? We've got St Kilda versus Freo at Marvel. So I think this one's actually going to be a lot closer than what people think. Fremantle played Melbourne into form at the MCG a couple of weeks ago, and St Kilda generally play Marvel Stadium pretty well. We saw that they beat Geelong there about a month ago, and there's no reason why they can't beat Freo here, who sometimes struggle with the travel. Rookie, do you think Brayshaw finally cops a tag, or do you think Windhager goes to Sarong?
I think it will change. We saw Windy kind of rotate through targets at some points during, so far this season during games. You wonder when it's coming, because Brayshaw has been pretty much dominating every game that they've played at the moment, while the attention's still going to Sarong. It has to come in at some point. Surely if we can notice it, the coaches can notice it. So it's a matter of when. Does Windy go there? It's definitely a chance. But again, does that mean Strong then goes off the chain and then he switches? Like, does he just rotate? So I think there is probably a likability that Brayshaw will cop some attention. Whether it stays on him for the entire game, probably not. Because again, you've got M1, M2, and Sarong and Brayshaw that if you don't get attention on them, they're just going to rip you apart.
Yeah, 100%.
So
yeah,
hard for teams to balance out.
Any difference in opinions, Hurls, or?
I think he will cop the tag this week. I think Windy's better for the outside player, not the inside player. So I think he will cop him for some of the game. I don't know if he'll do any good, but I think he will go to him at some point.
Hopefully this is the game that Sarong has his spike game and gets himself back into some action. Oscar McDonald, he's minus 38. He's on the bubble. Is he worth bringing in? No. Luke Jackson's on the plane, and he will play. I think Longmuir really likes the 3 tall structure. So this week, if Jackson plays, it'll be Jackson, Darcy, and Tracy. They'll keep 2 bigs in the forward line, potentially 1 at times if Darcy and I don't know, Darcy will probably rest, Jackson will ruck, and Tracy will stay forward. But I can't see them playing Oscar McDonald as well. We saw a interview during the week with Oscar McDonald saying that he realised he was going to struggle for a game if he didn't adapt to the way Fremantle were, and requested training with the forwards this year, which in turn has given him a couple of games. But when we're talking cash gen for Oscar McDonald, I reckon he's going to be a 119k dead rookie on your bench unless Jackson does another pig string or Darcy does another knee. So I wouldn't be going just yet.
I was going to say our best case scenario as a SuperCoach player is that he doesn't play, stays on the bubble, and then Shrek goes down at some stage later in the year like he usually does. And then we've got someone to bring in then.
Yeah. John is just saying that, am I scared that my job is in jeopardy because of your voice, Rookie? Then I'm going to have to talk like this for the rest of the show.
Go on.
I can't. The missus would love it though. Can you bring in Rowan Marshall as a cash generator, Hurls?
It's really awkward. Like if you've already brought Flynn in, like most of us, into flex, and you've got two of the big 3 in your main rucks, and then you've got Flynn still making shitloads. How do you really go to Marshall? I think the one scenario where you can either go Marshall or Sherry this week is if you've got a ruck like Nank, for example, and you think, all right, he's time to move him on. But if you've got 2 of the 3 big dogs in R1 and R2, and you've got Flynn in R3, what are you going to do? You're not going to move them.
100%. You've seen a bit of Hugh Boxall in the VFL, Coach. Is he a rookie that we could potentially trust in time? I don't think he's enough or proven enough, even though we did all right in the preseason, to go this early on?
Yeah, I mean it's tricky because we've seen this sort of rotating door mythology kind of happen to a few coaches. McWalter being the main man that is great despise at the moment because he just doesn't want to give Tom Gross and Clayhor a shot. But we've seen it with St Kilda already. We've had Chevalier come in. We've had Garcia have his ups and downs. What are we going to? Are we going to expect any different from Boxall? We saw it happen with Hasty as well, given they are different roles and different positions and whatnot. But we kind of get the gist from a coaching perspective is maybe that job security is not as great as we hoped it to be. So this is definitely one that where he could be, he was, I think, averaging around 24 touches at the VFL level.
Mm-hmm.
He could be one that is really good, but it is definitely one you want to watch and make sure on. You want to get him on the bubble, probably no earlier, just to make sure everything's pretty much lined up for him to actually make cash.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Are we concerned with Jack Sinclair training with the forwards, Hurls?
I want to pick him up in a week or two, so a little bit. I don't want. Actually, here's what I hope happens. I hope he plays a half in the forwards. He scores 75, and they decide this isn't working, and they put him back to half back for the last quarter, and then we can pick him up for 510 in 3 weeks instead of 540 next week. That would be beautiful. But I'm just dreaming a little bit. I think it is. Anytime you hear of a back flank seagull that's going to move positions, and like we saw with Wang, it hasn't impacted him because he's still scoring hundreds playing through the middle, but it is easier in the half-back line. We know that. So it's just something to keep an eye on.
Yep. I'm having a bit of a mess around with my settings, so if the microphone's any different or any worse, please let me know.
Are you trying to lower your voice?
I'm trying. Some people want to be me. Some people want to be me. In this case, I just want to be you. Any VC or C options in this one? Or because we've seen Brayshaw is usually quite a safe pick when we're talking VC or C options this year, being the number one scorer in SuperCoach. But that windy tag sort of throws a bit of a spanner in the works, doesn't it, Rookie?
Yeah, when you look at like Sarong and Brayshaw, considering they're both taggable targets, it really does beg the question of, do you want to waste the VC on those, considering maybe they both go around the 105, 110, given that if that tag switches, you might be fine. I would lean towards a Sarong VC more than a Brayshaw, as Hurls was saying. Windy suits more of that Brayshaw type of role. So I think Sarong's probably a better choice for VC. I also wouldn't mind taking a look at Clark. I think Clark's gone under the radar. We're waiting for a spike score as well against Saints, who leak points at Marvel. I would not be surprised. It is a very left field option if you wanted to be different, but that's what the VC's for. It can be used as that way. I think we're waiting for that spike score, and it could potentially happen this week against the Saints.
Saints do historically give up some points to halfbacks as well.
They do, and we've seen it happen again. Ryan's dropped off completely. It's Clark's world back there. It's his type of football that they're looking at now. From Freo, that's probably. I still don't think Brayshaw is a bad shout, but just be prepared to have. Don't expect the same scores you've seen so far. Essentially, just manage those expectations a little bit.
Hurls.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have Sherry, so I'm tempted to take a punt on someone this week. With this, and this week I think is the right week to do it because I'm expecting Maxi to go absolutely massive. So I'm even thinking outside the box here. Someone like a Jack McRae, Freo don't really worry about giving attention to mids in the opponent. Someone different, maybe get a unique pod. Like last week was great getting 174 VC, but the whole world had him. So maybe this week it's a McRae or something out of the box, and hope he gets 150 or something. But I probably wouldn't take anything less than 135 this week because I think Maxi's floor is about 150.
Oh, Maxi could go 200 against Flynn, but we'll talk about him later.
Let's not remember we said the same things against Keith at the start of the season, and look how that went.
yeah, that's right.
We did. We did.
Tips in this one, boys. I'm going St Kilda.
Oh, I reckon Freo just.
Yeah, I reckon Freo bounced back from. Oh no, they won last week. What am I talking about? Yeah, Freo better than the Saints.
Yeah, right. All right, we're on to Western Bulldogs versus Port Adelaide, which is at Mars Stadium. And to be honest with you, I'd rather travel to Mars than visit Ballarat because that place is fucking cold and windy and shit. Come to Bendigo, it's much better. But the burning questions in this one, lads. Connor Rozee. So he's, for me, and from what I've read, shout out to Fantasy Freako for this, but it's looking like he's going to get DPP. So he's going to get mid defense. He's not a top 6 or top 8 mid for me, but he's a potential to be top 6 defender. Rookie, going to ask you, would you go now, grab him while he's cheap or cheaper to bank the DPP when it comes in round 12, even though they have the buy? Or with his scoring, do you think his price stays at around 530, 540, and he's still attainable and we don't have to worry about him yet?
I think it's very team dependent on how you're looking for that buy. If you have the room to facilitate getting Rozee in this week, I would 100% pull that trigger because you're going to cop some decent scores. You're going to get that DPP, fingers crossed. I still don't think he's going to become unattainable though for after buys, where I feel most people will be looking to pick him up because again, that buy is just struggle street. There's all these big names in that same buy, and we're all trying to figure out a way where we can have them before the buy or work out how to get them after the buy. If you can get him in and it balances your buys out, maybe you plan on trading out a sharer to balance it out, come that same buy. Sure, go for it. But I don't think he's going to get too unattainable. So
no,
really, if you trust Rozee in that halfback, you don't think anything's going to happen in regards to role changes, then by all means go for it. It seems like it's working perfectly for Port, so I doubt they throw any changes into the mix.
Kizza, I know you're in the chat, mate. I want you to check out what the temperature is going to be in Ballarat on Saturday because I've got some stats here that we're going to talk about with Butters very shortly. But we see here that Junkie's got in the chat. Thoughts on Dale? What are Daily Bale owners doing, Hurls? Is it time to just throw him out and go, yep, I may have traded him in after he's 140, 129 or whatever it was to start the year, I got it wrong? Or has he dropped to a point now where you go, I've got to hold on? Where do you go here?
Yeah, these are the hardest decisions that we have in SuperCoach. They're the ones that we want them as keepers and we don't know if they're going to get back to that. They're not performing as them. Look, I think you trade around him at the moment. I think you just hold and you try to get rookies off the field. Anyone who watched our episode last night will know it's going to be hard to make upgrades at the best of times. So I think taking a punt that he returns to better form is probably a better chance than wasting a trade on getting him out. Unless you can get to someone massive, like if with any of these kind of blokes, if you can go to someone that's a absolute lock top 3 in their line because you've got the cash or because of whatever, then I'm not going to argue with you. But if you're going to another one who might just be a D6 as well, then I'm probably not going there.
Yeah, I agree. Jono's just putting some dollars in the chat. Thank you, Jono, one of the absolute gentlemen of the Insight community. Jono also asked before RookieCoach that the Insight community go to the MCG round 24 each year for a bit of a catch-up, and he'd like to know if you wanted to come along and share in a frothy with us.
Oh, as if I'm going to say no to that invitation.
Jono is going to be there. There you go, mate. You got your wish. You can't shave his mullet off, though. That's got to stay.
That's not even a mullet. It's full Goldilocks, ladies and gentlemen. Come on now.
We saw that earlier in the chat. Goldilocks in the middle from Jonas.
Yeah, Joe. It is thanks to Jonas that the Goldilocks name is running around.
Mate, Jonas, funny man. He turned up at the MCG last year out of nowhere and loved a frothy. So he'll be back this year. No worries about it. Now, before we talk about Bustlinger, I want to talk about Butters. So our man Brody, who's created his own database for numbers, has gone to the effort of working out that before 6 p.m., if Butters plays, he averages 128 SuperCoach points on average. So I've got more. Sorry. His away score, he averages 131. This is from 2024 and so far in 2025. And what's the conditions going to be? 19 degrees. So he's even put it down to weather conditions. So if the weather is between 16 and 20, he averages 114 SuperCoach points per game. So any games that the temperature range is between 10 and 15, he averages 145 SuperCoach points per game.
Oof. I challenge any other content creators to come up with weather stats like we've just done here. That is elite.
That's unreal, isn't it?
Unreal work.
He has gone to so much effort for the Insight community. So if you want anything like that, it's all in our Patreon that we'll play later on. He has the numbers on absolutely everyone, wind conditions, weather conditions, what they average at night, what they average at day, where they average it, what shoes they put on first. You want it, he's got it. Now, geez, you're getting a lot of love in the chat, mate. Maybe we should have you on more often.
Maybe.
Do we go early on Bus Hurls?
I think this is really team dependent and what you really think about his job security.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was really impressive last week. Just on face value, I thought he played well. I thought he used the ball really well. I'm of the view that I want to see them bring Jones back this week because I want to see how he goes as not the main fullback. I think he'll be even better, to be completely fair. So I'd love to see that. But the other thing to consider with Bus is there's not many rookies coming through. We've got maybe a handful. If you think you have to bring in Buslinger and the pencil, which we'll talk about in the Hawthorn game, Hustwaite later on, and you don't have a boost left and you don't want to double downgrade next week, then you've got no choice but to go early on one if you think you need them both for cash to go down to. But if you don't need to go to both or you've got a boost you can use next week, then I would be inclined to wait till they're on their bubble. So it just depends on your team.
100%. So I did something some people would call silly, but given the lack of downgrade targets we had last week and Buslinger's stats in the VFL, I actually brought him into my team without even playing a game. Averaging 25 touches, 17 kicks in the VFL. Bevo's given him a crack. Contract year. If he doesn't play, he'll move back to WA. I think he's getting games. And last week he showed that he could match it in the AFL. And if you look at the size of the bloke, he was standing next to Tim English, and he's not far off being that height, rookie.
Yeah, I mean, he did look good. He had really good moments, and he just looks built to play the role that he's been sent in to do. There are obviously the concerns. Like, I love Hurls' comment about I want to see them both in this team to see how that balance works out. I don't know if we'll get the opportunity to if they've gone like a like-for-like role. And this is Bevo we're talking about. So there are concerns to be had. We've seen him ruin some really nice picks, and it can happen again at any time.
Absolutely.
But we hope that we see enough. I as Hurl said, I now absolutely nailed it. Given some people already had a boost, or maybe you want to hold on to that last boost for a rainy day or whatever it might be, you may have to pick up one of these guys like a pencil or Buslinger this week just to facilitate, some up and down movement for the following, trade cadence that you're looking to keep going for the team. I think either are fine. Bus will do enough to make cash, and we hope we hold a roll. There's airs of caution on both of the Hustwaite,
for sure.
Buslinger to come in. So either one's fine.
Does Peppa Pig ton up again? For me, I hope so. But for Deadly, he doesn't have him, so I hope he goes 150. Can we break the rules and buy Bont on the bubble?
I think you can add your mate Butters into the equation here too. He's not on the bubble. He's 680,000 or 90,000 as well. But look, I've been saying this for 2 weeks. The logical answer, if you're trying to contend and build your team and get your rookies off the field, is no. But if you're 50,000th or 20,000th and you're trying to catch up and you say, stuff it, I'm just going to do something different and I want to have Bont and Butters as a pod, then I can totally understand that too. But if you're trying to upgrade your team, and I'm looking for value, I'm not looking for 690,000. That's for sure. I do want them at 600. I'll consider that equation when it shows up, if it shows up, but not at 680, 690 for me.
No, 100%, mate. And For those that want to know about numbers and when to trade players in and structuring your team up in order to be able to afford those primos, go back and watch our show last night. Hurls has got the spreadsheets out on the screen. He's got his team on the screen. He shows how much money he needs to upgrade at each position and where to find that money. So an absolute must watch for you at home if you're looking for any sort of help in relation to upgrading your side. Now, Rookie, do we think Joel Frazier is a viable option? He's back into the negatives, or actually, no, maybe just a small break even this week. I'll have to double check that, but is he an option? He started the year a couple of tons. He went pretty shit for a couple of weeks, and then he's popped off for another couple of tons again. So he's the ultimate roller coaster when we're talking SuperCoach at the moment. But with Bont back, he's still in the middle, and it's like it's freeing him up because people are more worried about Bont than him.
Yeah, look, the fridge is a hard one to read because I bought him in after those 2 tons thinking, all right, here we go, nice little stepping stone, and then the fridge broke. Just absolutely broke down on me. Gave me 2 horrible scores back. I almost booted him. He almost had a 1-week contract with me. I was that sick of watching that first game. But the writing was kind of on the wall. He had a lot of scaling those first 2 games. But look, maybe if Treloar wasn't on the cusp of coming back into the team and it's possibly affecting that mid-time, maybe he'd be a bit more of consideration. I am slightly biased because I had the fridge and it broke, and I don't want a refund on that fridge. I don't want to collect it. I want to leave him by the dumpster, even if he is on fire. So, look, if you haven't had him, you're looking for a stepping stone and it gets a rook off field. I don't hate it, but just be aware that any week, Treloar is going to come back in. For how long? Who knows? Those calves are not strong. But there could be things that influence that game. So
absolutely. Kizza brings up a good point too, Rookie, that the fridge versus GWS had 6 CBAs for the first 3 quarters. And then when Bont was subbed out, he had 8. So he effectively did his scoring without many CBAs at all, which in SuperCoach, that's not what you want because it could fluctuate so much.
Yeah. And that's it. Do you want that Bailey Dale relationship player where you're watching the highs and you take the lows, then you're left watching the game from behind the couch, wondering if you're going to get a 60 or a 110.
Yeah.
It's a stressful pick, nonetheless.
100%. Any VC or C options for you, Hurls?
I don't own anyone in Port Adelaide team anymore. I got rid of all of them, and they were all errors, but I got rid of them all. I don't even know if I have a Bulldogs player. I don't think I do. So no, none for me.
Okay. Well, forget I asked you that question. What about you, Rookie Coach?
Look, I think Rosie might be a bit of a shout if you've got Rosie. From Bulldogs, as Hurls said, there are some people out there going a Dale to a Bont. They literally had enough and they're just pulling the trigger because maybe, they're not where they want to be in their rank and they have nothing to lose, so they can be really risky with it. So if you've got a Bont and you're doing that sort of play this week, of course, you have to VC him. Very same case for Butters. If you're bringing him in, go for it. A sneaky one that you could potentially look at, who has been up and down, hasn't had a spike score as such this year so far, but a sneaky pot in Ed Richards, I don't mind. I currently have him in my team, and he has been a sneaky VC option, or a thought of a VC option, I should say. But yeah, Butters, Rosie, I don't know about Pickle.
Yeah, okay. So out of all the Western Bulldogs games, including this week, they travel outside of Victoria twice for the rest of the year. So they have got a magic run when it comes to playing football in Victoria for the remainder of the year. I would hold on to Bailey Dale this week because, as Deadly brought up the other night, what does he average at Mars? It's like the second best in his career. And at TIO, at TIO, it's even more. It's like 111, isn't it, up there?
Yeah, 108 at Mars, I think it was. He also mentioned that the halfbacks in general at Mars go really well, which is probably not what we would just intuitively expect at a ground like that. Statistically, it's the way.
I think out of all the games played at Mars last year, I can't remember whether it was 1 or 2, but Deadly did bring up that the least amount of disposals for a halfback were 22 out of everyone that went through the halfback position. So that's something to keep an eye on. And if that's the case, you're not trading out Dale this week because you could get that spike score back this week. We've spoken about VC and C options. It's Rosie, maybe. It might be Butters. It could be Bont. But apart from that, maybe Ed Richards if you want to go a little bit saucy. But for you, Deadly, Pepper Pig 170. Let's move on to the next game. I think the Dogs get that done there in Ballarat as well.
Yep.
And, geez, we spoke about Ballarat a lot then. Let's not do that again. Adelaide versus Carlton at Adelaide Oval. I think this is going to be an absolute cracker. Carlton have found a little bit of their mojo over the past month and are starting to play some okay football. Adelaide, they do play well at home, so I expect them to bounce back this week. But I'm going to ask you this one, Hurls. Matthew Carroll. So we saw that Williams has gone down with what I think is a fucking weekly injury because he's always in the rooms and he's always got something wrong with him. I know the bloke can play footy, but get your body right first, mate. But then Silvani's out as well. We know that Doherty may be back this week. They're looking at potentially Lewis Young to come back in as well. We were told by our sources that Carroll was potentially not going to play this week, but with the way that the injuries are stacking up at Carlton, is there a chance he plays again?
There could. I mean, selection is going to be interesting. I mean, we were heavily influencing our community not to go to Carroll. The stats were massive in the top 10% who went to Carroll. I think it was 60 or 70% actually traded in. So, I mean, as someone who didn't trade him in, and I know I shouldn't say this because I do genuinely want all of our community to do well, but as someone who didn't trade him in, I hope he gets dropped and he's a dead rookie. But I think if he's still in, and I think the situation where I would just raise an eyebrow a little bit is if he was still in and Cowan comes back. Because if he's still in and Cowan isn't back, I'd still expect it to be a swap at some point this week or next. If he's in and Cowan's in and he's not sub, then you might just raise an eyebrow maybe.
From what we've been told, and again, I'm not going to name names because I don't want people thrown under the bus, so I'm happy to wear the blame if this doesn't come through. But Young, Cowan and Doherty expect to be named. Carroll, Williams, Silvani out. So we'll wait for teams tomorrow. We'll be on the panic room. So if I'm wrong, feel free to come and give me shit for it. But that's what we're hearing at the moment. Rookie, what will Adelaide do given the injuries and suspensions they've got at the moment? Sid Draper does have a break even of, is it 81 this week? Like it's fairly large for someone that's hasn't scored really over 50 for the whole year. So if we see an opportunity and a role for Sid Draper and he goes 60, 65 and drops 15K, could he be our downgrade option next week?
Definitely can be one of those. I don't want to put the name on it, but a rookie savior could be tossed around for Sid Draper if he drops down enough in price. And again, we talk about, look, we've only got Buslinger and Pencil, but Draper could be that extra guy that we can use if you got that boost line around for next week. It depends. Again, Crouch is out, opens up a lot of opportunity for Draper to really have that spot to prove why he should hold it and not get that vest as much as he's been copying, essentially.
100%.
So, yeah, there's opportunity for it. It will be a big watch this week for most teams, I believe. So definitely, keep it on your radar for a downgrade option next week.
100%. And for those that do play Draftstars, I reckon Peatling might be a nice little cheap addition to your squad this week with a sudden bump in CBAs with the unfortunate injury to Crouch Potato.
I think not only Draftstars though, Horse. I mean, if I don't know what Peatling's price is, but he's a forward, isn't he? So he could be a sneaky
mid-forward
option as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting just to see what they do. Like, I personally hope, and it answers the next question, I hope they put Dawson behind the ball. I don't know if we're some kind of, we could be considered experts anymore or whatever, but I heard first crack going with this that Jordan Dawson as the clearance midfielder isn't cutting it and they should be doing something else with him. I've been saying that for 2 weeks. I think it's just so obvious. Put him behind the ball. let him use his disposal efficiency weapon that he has instead of being rushed all of the time. I'd love to see some moves out of Adelaide, like Draper playing a bit more centre bounce mid, Dawson a bit more behind the footy, and that would really open up some avenues for us in the next few weeks trade-wise in SuperCoach.
Yeah. And Jasper, I really want to let rip, but I can't. The only thing I can say is Matt Crouch in my car. It's an automatic, right? And I've got P for park, N for neutral, D for that way. I don't have reverse in my car that goes backwards. It's called Matt Crouch because you only fucking go backwards. Weakest piss, be better. Now, surely TDK stays solo ruck permanently with the Mackay, the better Mackay, even though I'm an Essendon supporter, as his backup rookie coach.
Well, you'd think so. I think the surrounding situation where contract hasn't been locked in yet, it's dragging on. I think that the Carlton have no choice but to keep Pitnet out to try to win over TDK to stay with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there hasn't been any confirmations on if he's going or if he's staying. Mackay looks in really good form. He played pretty well against the Cattery last week. So I definitely agree. I don't think Pitnet cracks into the team yet with Mackay in form and TDK, again, being one of the best rucks at the moment for the start of the season. I don't see it happening. But Voss is Voss. I mean, who knows what he can do? He can definitely screw some things permanently, given it is Carlton, and we've seen the absolute shambles this team's gone through so far.
Oh, it's unreal, isn't it? TDK is ranked second for ruck. So we've got Gawn number 1, TDK number 2, Cherry 3, but there's only like 12 or 14 points difference, Hurls?
Yeah, so Gawn's 3 points ahead of TDK and 12 points back to Sherry. So there's nothing between. They could swap this week. It's that close.
They could.
I think it's better for Mackay as well playing second ruck. I think he's better in that position. This will never come out of my mouth again because everyone knows how much I hate Karlscombe. I think them winning is the ticket to TDK staying solo ruck. So that's the only shining light I'm getting out of a Carlton victory on a Saturday or a Sunday. And so I don't want to see it very often, but at least it's keeping TDK solo ruck for my SuperCoach team.
I had my finger hovering over the mute button. Then there's way too much Carlton love out of you, mate. But,
I know.
Any VCC options for you first rookie in this one? Or do you think the VC boat has sailed in the games beforehand?
Yeah, look, getting to that Saturday afternoon, you kind of start leaning away towards your VCs, especially if you had Campo as kind of your last loop option. You're kind of steering away from it. If you've got loops available, I don't mind a VC on TDK. Again, just seems to be pretty viable. Lowest score of 100 so far this season. Had a great game last week. Definitely fine. A sneaky one, if you wanted to go there, I've seen a lot of chatter on X about Dawson finding form again with Crouch out. And we're hoping a big game, big comeback spike game from him. You could place your bets. Maybe you wanted to trade him out of your team, but you're reluctantly holding, and maybe you put the VC on him to give him some pressure.
Yeah. Hurls?
No, a bit too close to the Max Gawn game for my liking, I think, to be mucking around with a VC. But otherwise, TDK would be viable. But it's just they go back to back, and I don't want to stuff up, bloody miss an opportunity or something.
That's right. Kizza wants to know, rookie, who do you go for? And I can give you the hot tip, ladies and gentlemen. Asa is going to be very happy.
I go for the frauds that are the category that lost to the damn Carlton Blues last week.
So he's actually been paid by Cotton On to say that too, ladies and gentlemen. So
yeah. I actually got a contract with Bailey Smith in tandem as well. So
there we go.
No, it's the hair. It's all the hair. That's all the contract's for.
Adelaide in this one, lads, or Carlton upset?
Any excuse to pick against Carlton. If there's, if they play anyone out of the other 17, I'm picking Adelaide for sure.
Let's go to the next game, mate. So, this is going to be a belter. Geelong versus Collingwood at the G, night game, Saturday night. Awesome. Any chance Atkins goes to Dacos, Hurls?
I think he probably will try to run with him. That seems logical. They haven't really, and Coach, you're a Cats man, so you can probably tell us a little bit more about this. They haven't really used O'Connor much in a run with role this year. It's really just been Atkins, hasn't it?
Yeah, Atkins has been the main man to do that. If there's like anyone else outside of that main mid position, they might send O'Connor to him if it fits the mold that Cattery hold with those roles. Outside of that, though, yeah, O'Connor's kind of been a very loose, maybe we'll cop out Atkins for a little bit and send O'Connor in for a rest. But outside of that, yeah, 100% Atkins doing the run with.
Yeah.
Oh, what a time to have the Geelong man in. We can roll these questions through you, mate. Does Max Holmes become a discounted keeper option, given that he currently averages 101? He's had a couple of down weeks at 525k, break even of nearly 160. Could be 480k in 2 weeks.
Definitely could be. He's one I've definitely got an eye on in, around that 2 week mark. Because he's going to be pretty cheap. He's definitely going to be value at that point. We've seen what he can do, and we see how poor Stewart has bounced back from his knee injury.
Yep.
Old man is most likely going to get rested. Don't be surprised if there's a late out this week. You could probably expect it every week with bloody Chris Scott.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with Stewart probably not being really confirmed for any future games, he might even get rested if they see themselves getting, finals opportunities towards the end of the season as well, which just opens up a lot of opportunity for Holmes. Like when Stewart was out, we saw Holmes got swung back for kick-ins. He was getting mid-time. He was everywhere. And that's where we saw that massive spike came from him. So I don't hate it. You definitely wait, give it 2 weeks till he bottoms out in price. And if you've got the room for him, I love it because he's got a decent buy as well. So you can work around it.
Awesome. Ian Johnson says, which Dacos? It's Peter Dacos we're talking about, mate. You just spoke about Tom Stewart. Is he going to be an option down the track, rookie? Or do you think he's such a hard watch when we're talking injuries that it's just better to steer clear?
I think you steer clear. We know Stewart is that hard get. He'll go for that really ridiculous spoil where he's mounting 3 blokes just to get it and then lands ass over tit.
Yeah.
He's going to do that regardless of if his body is sound or if he's injured. It's not a mechanism that runs through his mental when he does that. He's like, oh, is this going to really hurt? No, he just does it. And that's where all these injuries we can count on happening once the season come from. So I think it's probably prime time for Stewart's in the past at the moment. He could come out and prove us all wrong, and I wish he would. As a Cats man, from a AFL perspective, I'd love to see him get back in form, but I really don't see it happening because he's looked so slow.
Someone that's going under the radar, Hurls, is Dan Houston. So 525k, he's got a break even of 144. He's got an average score this year of 94. So we know what he's been like in the past and the way that he can score quite consistently. Round 1, he scored 132. Round 4, he scored 103. That was against Port Adelaide and Carlton. The worry is the 81 against the Dogs and the 62 against the Bombers. Is there potential for him to be a sneaky little pod option, or do you think there's too much going on with Josh Dacos and Howe taking all the kick-outs and the other Dacos, the better Dacos, getting the ball at will through the midfield and all that sort of jazz?
Yeah, I think Collingwood over the journey have proven that most of their other players outside of Nick Dacos are capped at the 100, 102 mark, right? They don't necessarily go bigger than that. I think that's the problem. If you pay, everyone's good at a price. So let's see where Houston gets to. If he gets to a price where you're going to be happy with 100, then that's okay. But I just don't know that he's going to be in that real D6 conversation. It might be more, maybe a D10, D12 kind of year for him. But if he does get back to it and the price is right, I'll never close my mind to any of them.
Yep. Rookie, would you captain Dacos against your boys?
Reluctantly, yes. As much as
he's a fucking superstar, though.
But this is the thing, right? Is even if they do send Atkins to him, what are they gonna do? Atkins is not up to speed with Dacos. No one can catch him. He ruined Jordan, who was supposedly the best tagger in the game. If he's doing that on Jordan, there's no way Atkins is running with him. Atkins is probably going to give away 5 free kicks against him. He's going to get a boatload of points and clearances, and Again, with Ned Long also as an addition, who is seemingly being the vessel for the ball to get to Dacos as he runs around the pack. It's a mix you can't actually beat at the moment. And given Geelong's midfield, it's okay, but it's not the best. They're going to have a very hard time stopping that flow.
For sure. Jono, you can find Peter Dacos. You can only get him in the flex, and he's about 340K. Tips for this one, boys? I think Geelong beat Collingwood here.
Oh, music to my ears, Horse.
Geelong have a good record against Collingwood, I want to say, off my recent memory. I vaguely remember Jeremy Cameron kicking goals from row Z and being allowed to, and they said it wasn't out of bounds and stuff like that in last year or the year before's game. So, yeah, it could be. I mean, Geelong losing last week means that they're going to be fired up, but Collingwood are in some great touch. They really are. I hate to say it, but they are in good form.
Aren't they?
I've sat on the fence a lot there, haven't I?
Before we go into our next game, I want to give our sponsors a bit of a shout out who have been with us since day one, The Standard Squeeze, who are helping you drink responsibly and conveniently. You can go to the website, thestandardsqueeze.com, and use the code IFS2025 to get yourself 15% off everything in store. And also, before we move on to the next game, I wanted to change things up a little bit this week. Skiddy's not here, but Squeeze of the Week time. So what you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is put your guesses in the chat. If you're in the Patreon, please put them in the Patreon. Squiddy will jot them down. But for this week, that's right, you have to guess the player and the closest to pin. If you get that, you win a $45 prize pack, thanks to the guys at the Standard Squeeze. And it is free to enter. How good is free shit? Let's move on to the next.
How many people are going to pick Max Gawn, you reckon? I reckon every point from 160 to 220 is going to be taken.
Has to be. I'm gonna go Cherry, and I reckon he goes 170 against Goldstein.
Jeez.
I'm going to get in early, and I'm going to say Max Gawn, 201.
Oh, wow. Rookie coach, who you got?
Oh, look. As much as it pains me to do, I think Dacos is actually going to rip us. So I'm going to say Dacos for a solid 168.
You know what? I actually rate this comment from Jasper too. Geelong versus Collingwood. Draw wins. Fuck both those teams off.
Fair enough.
TTSC, thank you for joining us, my man. I will get to your comment. Question at the end when we address all the questions. Now, West Coast versus Melbourne. Why is this game in Perth being played at exactly the same time as the game in Melbourne?
It is ridiculous. When I was putting this stuff together, I looked at it and I thought, oh, great, we're going to have a stagger at the night game, because now that we've got 9 games and there's no public holiday, we knew that there was going to be some overlaps. They got a game in Perth at exactly the same time. Oh, anyway, it's not. I'm not doing Cone of the Week, but that's shithouse fixturing.
Yeah. Be better. Rookie, do any of the West Coast dead rookies come back? So Bo Allen, we are led to believe that he needs a few constant games in the 2s before he can be chosen in the 1s, given his health battles. Clay Hall had a good game in the Waffle last week. Sandy Brock, who did okay when he was filling in for McGovern. Or Tom Gross, who was also okay in the Waffle last week.
Yeah, and this is the annoying thing, is both Gross and Hall are playing very well at that second level, and they're both really fighting for a spot to get back into that best 22, 23. The Qualter, though, again, we talk about rotating doors of rookies, and you go to the main man himself, McWalter, and he's just doing that. Bo Allen is yet to be seen, and I think they're trying to string some games together to see if he stays together, doesn't fall apart on him. But Gross and Hall, you got Kelly, who's got this weird relationship with them at the moment, where he's not doing enough, but he's doing enough. It's very hard to get a read on what's happening there with giving kids the opportunity to actually have a string of games and find form, rather than, hey, game 1, find form. If you're not, catch you later. You know, back to the VFL with you, or the Western Australia version. Look, yeah. I believe that I would love to see Clay Hall coming, because I didn't pick up Gross, but I know a lot of people picked up Gross. I probably am leaning towards a Gross coming in because he's a little bit more versatile than Hall, and they can probably be moved around a little bit more. but I wouldn't be putting money on it.
Hurls?
Yeah, I don't know. I've got Bo Allen, who's my beautiful D6 loop, so I don't want him in yet. I do want him in when the buys come around, but I want Minnie to just hold off for 3 or 4 weeks on that. And I do have Clay Hall. I'm counting him as a dead rookie. If he plays a game here or there, I'll be surprised. I just don't know what they're doing with these guys. We had some interesting conversation in the WhatsApp group last week about this. I get it to an extent. I understand that Gross and Hall are probably centre bounce mids, and they probably don't feel their bodies ready for multiple games in a row in the centre bounce. But one game in, one game out isn't ideal for their development either. So it is a bit frustrating, but it is what it is.
Yep. Is it too late to pick up Matt Flynn or Elijah Hewitt Hurls if you need the cash?
If you didn't go Matt Flynn last week, you probably had a good reason, like you got the 3 primo rucks or something. So you're probably not going to go there anyway. But if you didn't go there just from stubbornness because he burned you early, I'd say swallow your pride and go there because he's still going to make another 80 or 100. And 80 or 100 grand from a bloke who can score between 80 and 110 each week for a month, I think is worth it. I probably wouldn't go Hewitt unless I was really desperate. The trouble with these kind of trade-ins is, yes, they'll make some cash, but you're not unlocking any cash from your existing rookie downgrade to help you facilitate an upgrade. And so unless you got, like Corey, for example, who was asking the other day, what do I do with my 3 boosts? What's the right time to attack? Someone like that, if you've got bench problems, that's where you could fix a bench problem with a boost because you've got so many boosts left. But otherwise, if you need your 1 up, 1 down, you probably can't go to these kind of prices.
No. Is Petrarca a must-have rookie coach? So I'm just looking at the stats right now. Almost 14,500 people have traded him in at the moment. Surprisingly, no. Henry Hustwaite, almost 21,000. He's second. And Oscar McDonald is the most traded in player so far this week.
Oh, that's a bit concerning hearing that Omac's the most traded in, but
Very much so.
Look, I think Track is, I wouldn't say he's an absolute must-have, but he's pretty much there. If you have that F6 position unlocked, you've got a rookie sitting there, maybe you still got a Davidson sitting there and you're looking to, get a rookie off field. I think he's a great pickup. Obviously a really good fixture for this week and is seemingly finding form, which we kind of knew was always happening, was on the horizon. It was just a matter of when. And a lot of people were, I know a few players that were hesitant to even get him last week because they wanted to see proof that he was back before jumping on. And then he comes out and does like a 120 and, now they're getting him in. I think he's ahead of Chad Warner, which I know a lot of people are looking at as an alternative option, as much cheaper. Warner, we understand to be a bit of a roller coaster. We saw it last season. He goes up to these high numbers and then comes back down to earth with some low floors. I think Track's a lot more consistent. I just think in the Chad to Track situation, Track is ahead by a long mile. But if you, say, for example, can't get up there, you can get a Warner. I think Warner's fine. But if you can get Track in and you're not necessarily sidewaysing and he gets a rookie off field, he's the perfect trade-in option.
For sure. What are we doing with Clary, Hurls?
I'd love to boot him, but I can't.
I'm the same.
I wouldn't this week anyway, because West Coast, let's see what happens. I mean, if Max is going to get 3,000 hit out, some of them are going to go to Oliver, we'd hope.
I hope so.
So, yeah, I'm holding this week regardless. I'm not looking at it, but I don't know if my cash situation is going to let me get an upgrade next week. And that might mean that Clary to Sinclair for me is a viable option next week. Or similar. So I'm not saying he's going to be in my team for very long. I don't trust him to be a keeper, but the problem's probably going to be, how SuperCoach works. This week he gets 140. How the bloody hell do you trade him out next week then if it makes it hard? So I don't know.
I'll tell you what, if you're trading Clayton Oliver out of your team, then your team's in fucking good position. Because Clayton Oliver against West Coast, he could pop off. They don't have a very good midfield, and he's got perhaps the best ruckman tapping it down his throat against Matt Flynn, who was a bit of a cone last week against Lloyd Meek. So, Yeah, you got to hold him in. For the almost 3,000 people that have traded Clary out this week so far, have a good hard look at yourself and maybe reverse that trade. So the C options, if you had Maxi, he's going to be in this game. I guess the question is, does he beat his highest ever score, even though historically he struggles at Optus Stadium?
215 is his highest, and he's actually got another 200 in his history as well. I was surprised when I had to look at that. So he can go there. Look, I just went for him for the squeeze at 201, so I'm thinking he's up around that mark. But maybe it's more wishful thinking than educated guessing going on. But who knows? Rookie?
Yeah, look, he had the opportunity to do that last week, and then he got rested. So I don't know if Goodwin's going to give him an opportunity to go 200 for us. Not that Goodwin's thinking about.
That's a great call.
When he's getting to that point. So yeah, he could potentially do that. There was no reason for him not to do it outside of him just getting rested because the game was already in the bag, sort of situation, and that whole thing. So against West Coast, that's probably going to be more of a factor. Look, he's still going to go. I would love to see a 180 from him.
Yep. Does it matter?
That's a really good call, though. Sorry, Horse. I hadn't factored that in. But if they're up by a lot, Max is so, vital to them that resting him makes sense. So that is a bit of a risk.
Gawn's lowest average is 94 against Brisbane, and that's because he had a 0 against them a couple of years back where he hurt his knee and almost the first centre bounce. But he's also, mind you, he had a 215 against Brisbane once upon a time as well. His next lowest is against Carlton, where he only averages 101. His next lowest is against West Coast, historically 103 SuperCoach points per game. And mind you, that's against the likes of Bailey Williams and the likes. So it really could go either way. It could be 200, or it might be a captain's flop this week, and it might only be 110. Something to think about anyway. And we've seen that Minnie and the coaching staff at West Coast had a bit of a heartfelt meeting this week about where the list's at and about their pretty ordinary start to the year. Can they beat Melbourne over there?
Sure. I don't think they can. Yeah, I don't think they can win. But West Coast were okay against Essendon at home 2 weeks ago. Home games, occasionally they're going to get the early start and be okay and be competitive. So I wouldn't rule that out, but I still don't think they're going to win.
No. They'll have competitive patches for sure. They might win a quarter, maybe just, but I don't see them stringing a whole game together to get ahead of Melbourne.
No. Next game, Sydney versus GWS at the SCG on Sunday. And mind you, we've got to give this guy a shout out because Lockie Whitfield, Whitney Blues, is in this game and he's proudly sponsored by Ryan from Astute Newstead. Use the promo code INSIGHT for all your residential home loan needs. The man with the worst mustache on YouTube, on X, is happy to help you with all of your needs. Absolutely obligation free and cost free. Doesn't charge you a cent if you reach out to him through the Insight community. Now, both these teams have been a little bit disappointing of late, but what do we expect to see here? We've seen the big brother Sydney bully the GWS side a little bit, but on any given day, Rookie, GWS are one of the best teams to watch.
Exactly. I think it's going to be probably one of the better games of the round. I think it's going to be quite competitive. Sydney have something to prove after their shamble of a second half from last week. And obviously GWS just need to, they've got some revenge seeking to do. They've, again, been the butt of the joke of this little clash. I think it's probably due time that they got a decent win. Jordan's probably got question on his head about his tag ability. I think we just see a really big slogging from Sydney, unfortunately. I think Green he's been playing well, but
just not scoring well.
Just not scoring well. He's getting that contested possession has been fine. Whitfield, probably a bit of area of concern, given he didn't do much to tweak his ankle last week. So maybe they might be a bit cautious with that, a bit of extra strapping. And Callahan can be hot and cold on any given week. So you got Jordan and you got Bedford. Who do they go to? More importantly, 100%. Is what's going to determine the game.
Yep. Deadly, if you're in the chat, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because you are the man for all the things tagging. But who does Bedford go to, Hurls? And then who does Jordan go to? Does Jordan go to Whitfield again?
Jordan hasn't been doing like he had one crack at a half back tag this year and got smashed by Rosie. I don't know he's up to that. I think they'll have to go in the middle somewhere and maybe a Finn Callahan to try to stop maybe someone in the middle. And I think they'll probably send Bedford to Chad. Is my gut feel, because I think Cox showed last week that he wants to play Heaney a little bit more as that centre forward kind of player. So I don't think that suits Bedford at all. Like the minute Bedford goes to him, they'll just flick Heaney into the forward 50. So I think the best bets, if it was me, it would be Chad and it would be Finn, but I'm no coach, so who knows?
I'm with you. I agree. Both of us, I'm not sure about you, Rookie, but we've got Cleary. Do you have him on your bench or in your forward line?
Sure do.
Are you playing him on field this week?
Sure am.
Okay. Well, that was easy.
Yep.
There you go.
Can you trust him?
I liked his game last week. Yeah,
he was good.
He was good. He was a regretful 80 on the bench for a Kako 50, so not making that mistake. I mean, I've got him a loop this week, so it's not going to be any situation like that, thankfully. Good. Hopefully Kako has a spike game. But look, Cleary has been in solid form. He definitely, I mean, obviously we had the sub concern last week with like Hanley and Cleary being like the small forward types that were bound to be a sub. It was just which one. But Cleary had a ripper game last week. He's proved why he's that versatile and how he can swing and be influential to the Swans. They all just fell apart, unfortunately, in the second half. But I think Cleary is, I would say, a trusty, again, F6 option. Again, you've got that flex to kind of give you a break glass if it's worst case.
For sure. What's your opinion, Hurls, of our mid-pricers who are cooking, a better word of the term, on field for us at the moment? So we've got Roberts, who after a couple of 70s back-to-back scoring pop 2 weeks in a row. Callahan, back to form, probably get tagged this week. And Bice, who has been that rookie revelation for those that jumped on and has made bulk coin and perhaps is going to be the last of our rookies that we upgrade given his consistent scoring. What are we doing there? Are we just holding for as long as we can? Or because it's easy to fall in love with rookies.
It is. Look, I think the obvious answer here is you just watching and enjoying, right? Like they're getting scores that you're happy with. I think people should not necessarily get too used to 100 every week from all of these guys because they're probably not going to stay at that range. I think Roberts, I've been really impressed the last 2 weeks. He's done a couple of things that he wasn't doing earlier, and he's been taking some intercept marks. And I think if he continues to take a few intercept marks, he's scoring. That's been, to my eye, the difference in his game. He was still getting the cheap 24, 25 touches the couple of games before that, but he wasn't really winning the ball back. So I think that's been really good for him. And maybe that's a product, just to think out loud. I haven't really looked at the tape or anything, but maybe that's a product of Tom McCartan going back, and that helps sort of him be a little bit more in a positional space to take intercept marks. So that's probably good for Roberts. I think Callahan has been definitely getting back to defensive 50 to help Ash and Whitfield a lot more. I personally think that's because the opposition's clogged up the middle and they haven't been moving the ball. I don't think it's positional. It's been situational for me. But if you've got him, you're probably happy with where he's at and you're keeping on hold of that. And Bice, geez, just don't worry about it. I thought he was a bit fumbly last week, but rookies scoring 100, they can stay as long as they like.
Unpopular opinion, Jake Stringer makes that forward line much worse.
That's not unpopular. That's spot on.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that's unpopular. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
As two frustrated Essendon fans, Horse, we saw it firsthand for the last 3 years. Good Stringer is great. He kicks his 4 or 5, but he doesn't for setup and for defensive pressure and for your ability to move the ball. There's an opportunity cost of having him in the team.
There is. You spoke about Chad Warner a little bit, but I'll ask this, Hurls. Is he a trap? Or do you think he's good to have in your flex?
I'm calling him a trap. because I don't think someone who's going to get 130 one week and 60 the next is someone who I want as a keeper. But I do understand the commentary that this year there is that flex spot. So if you're going to 23 rookies, he probably is going to be a bit of a hard watch for 7 weeks, let's say. In the down weeks, you're going to get really frustrated. But when we're full primo or full fake primo, whatever we end up getting to, he might be okay then, because then his 130 is great and the 70 might drop off because you've got primos everywhere. But he's not for me.
What do you think, Rookie? Do you think it's a trap, or do you think there's value there?
Yeah, you can't argue that there is some value at that price, given the cash generation issues that we're having, and you kind of have to play the value game if you want to get rookies off field. And look, if his worst day is a good day for a rookie, i.e. getting that low 70s to 80s, where we want rookies to really, on a really good day, reach those numbers, it's not really worst case scenario, because you do have the ability to capture those spike scores. So there is some value there. However, as Hurls said, you're not picking him because he's consistent. You're picking him for spike scores, which screams flex position. And very early in the season, we saw people talking as a Noah Anderson as a perfect flex player, because we see those spike scores. And if that score isn't spiked, it's not going to count. Could be a very similar situation. But I think, yeah, if he's your F6 because you just have no other options, I think it's fine. I think it's perfectly fine. Just be prepared to potentially step away from him at some point.
For sure. Not really looking at any C options, lads, in this one?
No, probably not.
All right, let's move on to our next game, which is Hawthorn versus Richmond. Geez, this could get ugly. Are we going early on the pencil? And what do we realistically expect from him? So I think we can realistically expect 3 games out of him, or until Connor Nash comes back. Will he retain his spot when Connor Nash comes back? I'm not sure. I need to see more games out of him. But we saw last week, he equal second rookie for possessions for the Hawthorn Footy Club. Like he got
second
20,
or third,
25 touches or whatever it was. So there's no issue finding the ball. And I feel like this week he could go quite well against an inexperienced Tigers midfield at the G.
Yeah, he definitely can. I think that is part of the attractiveness to the pencil and bringing him in this week, is it seems like a fieldable option. So if those that are moving off an Ashcroft or a Davidson and need cover on field and they don't want to field a Moraes or someone like that, he seems like a very fieldable option because of the role and because we've seen the VFL stats on the kid. He is a gun. Again, the question is he just a like for Nash? Does he go right out to the team? If he doesn't, who moves? Does Ward potentially have a role change or spend some time outside of the team? We're not really sure where that falls, but I personally am looking to bring him in this week, so I will cop whatever happens.
I think I'm in the same boat. Hurls, Sam Lawler, sorry.
Lawler. Yep.
67 break even. If you could move off him and say go down into a Hust weight, bank your 200K and then upgrade elsewhere, is that the popular option this week, or is that something that you'd realistically look at doing?
Yeah, I think it's the logical one. I think the reason I sort of put this on, we've had some history of these top draft picks getting better as the year goes on. And things like, Nick Dacos, everyone jumped off and he just kept getting better. Harry Sheasel, the same in his rookie year. This guy's a gun, right? But you would want to see a role change for the scores to be good enough to warrant holding him any longer. And I don't know Richmond well enough. I don't think they look like they're going to be in a rush to put him in the middle. So my gut feel is if I had him, I'd move him on and take the cash. And if it does backfire and he goes 90s and 100s later on because he gets CBAs, you just go, oh, well, I didn't know that. So be it. That's probably how I'd play it.
Yep, fair crack too. If you've got Nank, so I copped a little bit of criticism, Hurls, in the pre-season about how I thought Richmond would struggle and perhaps that would affect his scoring. And sure enough, I guess the spike scores haven't really been there from Nank, have they? He's been good without being great. He's at 544K. He's got a break even of 120 this week. I'm just getting into his scores. How's he been scoring? 125 has been his highest, but it's been 67, 87, and 96. So he's gone ton, not ton, ton, not ton, ton, not ton, ton. So as per that average, you'd probably expect anything under 100 this week.
Yeah. The hard part with Nank, and I had him, if you remember, in most of the preseason.
That's right.
My ruck strategy
2% owned he was.
My ruck strategy was always going to be Gawn and Nank with a view to get to Sherry in round 13, because I was trying to play that round 12 bye to my advantage rather than have the that changed really when we learnt that Shittenay was going to be out for a long period of time. So I went to TDK from Nank. So I said stuff the buy because I think TDK is a must. So I went there. But if you did go Nank, the hard part now is you have to go Sherry now. You can't go in round 13 because he's going to be 650,000 in round 13. So I think if you went that way thinking about the buy, you probably just have to go, you know what, I'll cop the round 12. As long as I haven't got more than 6 or something, you cross your fingers and don't worry about it, because this is the week for Sherry. So if you've got him, that would be my advice.
Yep. Any other opinions, Rookie?
Nah, I definitely agree. If you were going to do the week of a sideways to get out of a Nank, you have to do it now to get Sherry in. Otherwise, you kind of have to go for that ride and unfortunately go down the roller coaster. And there is that relationship between Richmond being competitive and Nank doing well. It's not going to happen so much. That midfield isn't gating him extra points for hitouts to advantage or anything like that. Yeah, he might have his own few tackles here and there, maybe some intercepts. But outside of that, it's just not happening. So, look, Nank to Sherry seems like a very viable trade option if you have pretty much the trades for it this week.
This week, I guess, could be a nil-all draw, so to speak. Lloyd Meek and Toby Nankervis are very similar in the way that they ruck. They're bigger bodied rucks. They're not quick, but they love a tackle, but they just lumber around. They're not fast. They're good with their hands. So, yeah, it could be a nil-all draw and each one of them score 110. Let's see how that goes. But Hurls, Dylan Moore, Squid loves this bloke and shouted him out last year when he's at 410K, I think he got to, and then popped off the rest of the year. Will he continue to be a yo-yo, or is this the point where we go, this could be a little pod for me?
Yeah, look, again, he's vying for that F6 probably with your Track and your Chad and those kind of guys. If you bought him in a couple of weeks ago, tested you, because I think he got a 36, because everyone saw the everyone saw the CBA spike because there was that injury and he went in the middle, but then he didn't get any CBAs. But he did get back to a ton last week. So, but I think it's maybe what Dylan Moore is, right? He's going to get you some hundreds. He's going to get you the odd real stinker because of the role he plays. So if you're okay with that, and maybe for me, the plan with a Dylan Moore type would be if I have any chance of getting a loop in the forward line at the end of the year for an F7, that's where I would go to a Dylan Moore, and maybe it's a Dylan Moore Philippou F6 F7 loop that you might be considering, for example, but not for F6. I don't think, in my opinion.
Good on you, Jono. Bought him in last week. He did have a stinker Easter Monday, but turned up last week. You're spot on. Any C options in this one? I would have a couple of weeks ago said Newcombe could have been a candidate, but he sort of wasn't that great against a depleted West Coast midfield either. So it doesn't really fill me with much hope here.
He was just soft last week. That's all it was. He needed a cup of cement. He took. He had a bit of a hit on a quad and just slowed down.
We've gone the cone early. We've gone the cone of the week early. I love it.
Oh, don't you worry. We've got plenty of cones this week. Don't you worry. But he's not an official cone, but he's on watch. But I think we'll see a bounce back game from Newcombe for sure.
Wow.
So I actually still think Newcombe is a solid C option if you wanted to go there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he is hard to predict, Newcombe. Like he gets some massive scores, but you don't know which week it's going to be. So yeah, I think that's fair. I think he was on 12 possession or 12 disposals at the 10-minute mark of the last quarter or something. I think he recovered to maybe 18 or 19, but
got an extra goal to help bump the scores.
Yeah, it was a pretty poor game. So I'm with you. I don't know whether it was soft. I wasn't watching to see whether he went into the contests or not, but I'll go with it. We all hate Hawthorn here at Insight. Well,
Yeah, almost all of us.
The Essendon supporters do anyway. All of our subscribers are all Hawthorn fans though, so I take that back.
Yeah. The last time he played Richmond, he scored 162. So there is some scope there. And you're right. There is one person that we need to shout out that you haven't put out on here, Hurls. Massimo D'Ambrosio. You strunzo. Be shit. Thank you. Hawthorn by 10 goals.
I've ditched him off the slides, Horse, because he's just until he gets a kick, he's not coming back.
Yeah.
Hawthorn easy.
sure.
Agree.
Last game of the round, Brisbane versus Gold Coast, until we get into some questions and some special cone of the weeks that we've got coming this way. Gabba 7:20. So this will be going while we're live on Sunday evening. There's lots of primos here. So we've got the suitcase, we've got Neil, we've got Dunks, we got after last week, Matt Rowell. Yep, that's right. Only one Matt Rowell. Nando's, Tuk. Where are we going with this one, Rookie? Who do you expect to go big? Because historically, Brisbane beat up on the Gold Coast.
They do. And Dunkley despises them, apparently, because he always has massive games against the Suns. I don't know what he's got against him, but when he is a different man when he comes up against the Suns. So we're expecting a big game from Dunks. Given Neil at the moment, we see that, again, that tag does ruin him, but outside of that, he's probably safe for a good 110. So probably a safe Neil score as well. Suitcase has been a bit up and down, has copped attention oddly last week with the tag instead of going to Neil. Very interesting. Look, I think we can probably expect all the primos to do well enough. Zorko is probably one that's going to be a watch because he hasn't bottomed out just yet. So I know a lot of eyes are going to be on Zorko. He's still very cheap, but he's going to be cheaper. So a lot of eyes on that, especially if Coleman is named as well to see how that balances. But Coleman is coming through the VFL, so he isn't in just yet. But one to watch if you have him as a target. For Neil, I think good price to get him in if you really love the Neil pick. I slightly think it's overrated, to be honest. But Took is actually one that is consistently going very, very well this season, and we can probably expect him to do well again this week.
He's one of only 4 players that have scored over 100 in each game, and Kiz has got it in the chat. It is the Zorko versus the Tuk. We know how much they despise each other, so can't wait to see that. Hurls, if you don't have Zorko, Neil, or Dunks, 1, should you target them? And give me a 1, 2, and 3. Your number 1 as to who you target through to the third most popular out of those 3.
I think you should be targeting these guys if you don't have them. Like I've got 2 out of 3, so I'm not going to be targeting the third. But if you had none of those 3, I think these are the right candidates to be targeting. They're all undervalued now. They're all good prices. If I was going this week with an upgrade, I think it would be Lachie Neale at 1. I think it would be Zorko at 2 and Dunks at 3. But I'm only saying that because of the qualifier of this week, because I think Neil's going to come down again in price. He's 130 break even. I think Dunks has still got some more to come down, whereas Lachie Neale is 79 break even. So just playing the maths of if I was bringing one in, Neil would be 1, Zorko 2, Dunks 3.
Yeah. I'd actually pick Dunks first, just as a pod option. I think he's going to, and he's going to pop off. And we know, those in the Insight community know that I was dropped from the Sale Footy Club Seniors back in 2010 for a young Josh Dunkley, who was about 15 years old at the time, and I don't hold any ill will towards him, even though I was fucking filthy at the time. But anyway, I think he's massively undervalued, and if he doesn't make that break even this week, he should be a massive target for all owners next week. Tunstall, 119k. Minus 30 break even, RookieCoach. If he's playing and he's not the sub, do you go there?
I don't like the pick. Purely because, 1, he has been subbed, so he's not shy from the vest. But we've also seen this sort of fashion with him previously. This isn't his first time at the AFL level. The last time he did come up, he only played 3 or 4 games and then got dropped again. And it's happened a fair few times. So there's something going on. Maybe it's the year that he gets that string of games together, or maybe it's the, Reveal comes back in and off he goes. There's a few different things to consider, and there's just too many concerns around the job security for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, we are looking for, decent rookies to bring in. And Tunstall was probably the one we're all hoping wouldn't cop the vest and would be like, yeah, we finally have a decent option on the bubble, not Nomac. We just weren't blessed with that. He copped the vest and scored poorly. He still has negative break even by all means. He has DPP, so it is handy. It's just, if you're a diehard Brisbane fan and you think he's going to fight his way into the team and get a few more games under his belt, sure, go for it. But as someone who's not in and under all the Brisbane Lion coaches' comments and all that sort of stuff, I don't like the pick.
No, neither do I. I think his best position's in defence. And they've got the likes of Starcevic, when he clears concussion protocols, to come back. They've got Coleman, who's back in the VFL this week. I think there are too many players that play positions better than what Tunstall does. I think he's a depth player, purely. He's not a best 22 player. So, Hurls, it was probably a blessing in disguise for those that may have had an eye on Tunstall last week that he copped the vest, and I guess the attention or the attraction to Tunstall's just not there now.
Yeah, and being last game was helpful too. Although I hate the fixturing of a 7:20 game on a Sunday, I love that it's the last game and I can't be tempted into someone like him because I would have already done all my moves by then, so it's going to be too late for that.
Yep. Any C's in this game, lads?
It could, but we probably won't.
No.
Yeah.
No. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do us for our games this evening. We've gone through
one more horse. I added a slide.
We've got trade
added a
plans.
slide.
Well,
yeah. What are we doing? I think we people will ask us a lot of questions about their trades, which is great, and we'll get to that in question time. But what are your trade plans this week, Horse?
I'm looking at going early on Hustwaite, and I'm also looking at bringing in Petraka. So at the moment, and I don't love it, but because I've got Marich and Long and Powell Pepper, I'm probably going to move on Levi Ashcroft and Luke Traynor to make way for those guys.
One up, one down?
Yep.
Rookie,
Coach? What are you doing?
Yeah, look, pretty much the very, very similar trades. I don't have the backups of a Marich or Long, unfortunately. However, I look at it as if anyone who is familiar with my content, I kind of went into more detail in my trade video that I did this week. But essentially, all I'm looking at is how much is Levi going to make versus how much is Track is going to make. How much are my rookies expected to make versus Track? Am I going to be more out of pocket if I wait a week just because Levi is going to make cash? Or am I better off just calling it now, making the trade work while I can, and then going on with, getting that extra premium in now, then having to wait a week? What if something else happens and then I can't get Track in? I can make the move this week. Yeah, it's not really a great feeling getting rid of a rookie that still has cash to make. But again, we've spoken about falling in love with rookies. There is a bad side to that where maybe you get a bit too attached. You're like, nah, they'll bounce back. And then they don't. Or they put up a stinker in the week you need them to have a spike score and it doesn't go out as expected. So I'm pulling the trigger. Levi and Pryor are out for me. And I'm bringing in Hustwaite and Track as well.
Hurls?
Very nice. I'm going to be really boring because I'm bringing in probably the same two players as you just said. I've got two options. I'm either going to bring in, if I bring Buslinger in this week, then it will be Pryor and Murphy Reid out for Buslinger and Track. But if I go Hustwaite, and I haven't made the decision yet, if I go Hustwaite, it'll be Davidson and Murphy Reid for Track and Hustwaite. So just depending on which rookie I pick.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's interesting that only 3,500 people in the community are going early on Buslinger, but yet nearly 21,000 are going early on Hustwaite.
The Bevo factor.
It's probably the matchup, isn't it?
It's like matchup and Bevo. Yeah, they're the two.
Yeah.
Now,
anyway, I thought I'd add that little slide in for you, Horse.
Yeah, I like
you
it.
can tell me.
I like it.
Yeah,
awesome.
No, I like it. It's good. And Jasper's like, whoa, new shit.
Wow.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have Squiddy here this week, but we're going to try something different this week. So we've got a man with a voice like Vin Diesel. So it'd be rude of me not to try and utilize this in a specific way. So we know that people all around the world, we've got some lovely comments from people in Wales who drop in and say g'day occasionally. We've got people in England. Perth is basically overseas as well. So we've got a lot of viewers over there. And if they don't watch the first 9 rounds or 9 matchups of our podcast, they come in just specifically for this episode. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the first time we've done this year or ever, because it's normally Squiddy. But Rookie Coach, it's your time to shine in our upgraded Cone of the Week.
Oh, I love the updated image for Cone of the Week. Corns definitely deserves the biggest cone on his head. Just these hot takes are just not doing it. And he does get a drive-by in this Cone of the Week for how real personal he's been getting on our man Sheasel. And he's now been kicked out of the locker rooms at North Melbourne. And
Western Bulldogs, yep.
And Western Bull, he's not going to be in any locker rooms at this point. But hey, it's his job apparently to talk shit and get personal. But you know what? He's just a little bit jealous that they're still playing and he couldn't live up to expectations. So as he would say, Corns, weak as piss, do better.
Good.
Few more drive-bys, because this week there was a few that really, even as a non-owner, really just pissed me off. I've made a list. I've actually done my research because you know what? Big shoes to fill with Squiddy not being here. Honestly, I don't want to disappoint. This could be the first and last time this happens. So let's just make sure we get it right. Ross Lyon tagging the suitcase instead of Neil. I'm a Neil non-owner. I wanted him to go down in price, not have a spike game and outscore Dunkley, who's my pod. Ross is by far the most frustrating coach. Subs Garcia to get bloody Zach Jones in. Like, I don't understand what his play is. And then you talk about Sinclair playing mid and forward. Like, is he trying to desperately ruin my SuperCoach season single-handedly? I got in Sinclair instead of Naz because of the halfback role. And now they're switching, and Naz is going to go reach that ceiling of 160 while Sinclair's kicking these shit goals for fucking 6 points. Not on. Ross Lyon, weak as piss, to do better. I would talk about Bailey Dale, but he's not even worth the effort of spending breath on. We all just know he needs to do better. This is ridiculous. We've known him, and he does this. So we're not even going to go there. I don't know what grass Matt Rao was eating over the weekend, but the free kicks that he was giving up, ridiculous. He gave up 6 free kicks in the first half. He then had 8 clangers. I don't know what grass, if it was fertilized, if it was mowed too short, mowed too long, or if he just didn't eat grass at all. But that man just saw red. I don't know if the ginger in his hair seeped in and got into his eyes. It was not working. Matt Rao, you picked up in the 7th half. I'll give you a little bit. Weak as piss. Do better.
Good.
Now, the one that we all kind of seen, Squiddy has touched on it earlier in this season, and I'm going to give it a smaller drive-by because there's one which I think you'll appreciate, boys, as Don supporter. But this next one, MRO. I'm fully convinced they do not watch the games. These guys are sitting here watching netball games, seeing their contact and going, oh, that's what we want in the AFL. We want touch rugby. We don't want players cuddling. We don't want players pushing and shoving. Literally, I've seen netballers take bigger hits, get up and keep going without as a single fine. Week is absolute piss. They don't watch games. They're literally playing Candy Crush on their phone going, oh, we heard a concussion. 3 weeks, no context. Weak as piss. Laura Corn, get out of there. Honestly, weak as piss. My biggest cone of the week, because I really wanted the Dons to win in this Anzac Day clash. I'm giving the cone of the week to the comm system during that game. How do you fail in the wet? We are in 2025 and you don't have waterproof comm system? The coaches were sending fucking Instagram reels during their coaching time to try and get their players to play football. Now, credit to Fly and Nick Dacos. They led their team. So, Zach Merritt, you're copping a cone. Where was your leadership during the comms going down? Absolutely weak as piss. The coaches team were sitting there going, oh, comms down. What's happening on Instagram? Oh, Bailey Smith's probably got a new contract with Cotton on. That's cool. No, not great. Or it's just honestly pisses me off because Brad Scott could not coach crickets to a grass field. It's weak as piss. Do better.
I like it.
That's
Ladies
it.
and
That's it. I'm
Ladies
done.
and gentlemen, if you're in the chat, please shower our man with some love there because that was fucking great. It takes a great man to fill the shoes of our man Squiddy. He does such an awesome job of that each week. And the fact that you found all of those people to cone, we fucking love that. So, ladies and gentlemen, as per Rookie Coach, Laura Kane, the comm system, the MRO, and everyone that you mentioned, you are the cone of the week. There it is. Question time.
I'm fired up after that.
Oh, fucking oath. Let's get into some questions.
It's question time. Let's answer your questions for the week ahead.
You're actually getting a few claps in the chat, and well done, sir. And Chris thinks that you're a bit more polite than Squid.
Look, I got a brief warning from Horse before. He's like, now just be careful with some of the bombs you drop. I'm like, you know what, first time on, I'll be nice, but don't expect it if this happens again. Put it out there.
I think it's great. Maxi, thanks for tuning in, mate. Guys, I need to trade out McStay for track this week. 150k shortfall. Gonna get rid of Goombin. Should I swap him for Buslinger or Carroll to get the 150k I need? Okay, Buslinger.
Yeah, Buslinger.
Yeah, not Carroll.
Yeah. Jonas VC, the cherry popper over Max Goon, captain. He's a funny man, Jonas.
Oh, there's deep lore behind this Goon situation.
Yeah. Zardes has had 8 tackles in his last 9 AFL games, had a month worth of tackles in the VFL 2 weeks ago. So I had to have a rest on the weekend. Well, hopefully he plays in a winning side tomorrow night, my man. And Jonas, who does Erasmus have to kneecap to get a game? Justin Longmuir.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Draftstars is for free. The link is in the description below. Sign up and we will send you the link to our Insight Fantasy Sports League only, where you, not any old random, you, people of the Insight Fantasy Sports community, have a chance to win cash each week. Jono, Horse, what did Denley do to be out for this long? Hamstring, I'm hearing.
Finger injury.
Deadly had to work tonight. He always works late on Wednesday nights. But he will be back with me for the Panic Room tomorrow night, 6:25 here on YouTube and X. Squid, Finbar will be the second ruck as Darling's engine is nearly dead. Finbar's been playing a bit of forward time, so I don't think that affects Cherry like a lot of people think it does.
Does Darling kick 3 or 4 Horse? He always used to kill us when he played for West Coast.
He probably does.
On Reed too.
Yeah.
As long as Reed gets... Oh, I don't have him anymore. Shit. Nah. Is Rookie Coach the new David Attenborough or what? As we see here, we've got Jason Pryor attacking the football.
Don't tell me, because I can do some mad impressions.
What can you give us?
Well, we can do a David Attenborough.
Let's do it.
As we see Jackson Pryor run away from the ball as the male species scares him away from what would be a goal and SuperCoach points. He is a merely beta male defender, scared of the alpha males in the system, bigger, better, and faster.
Not bad. I like that.
That's good. That's good.
You know what? I'd actually be interested if your voice was to read me the rule book too, Jasper. Yeah, I reckon Rookie Coach could read me a bedtime story with those deep tones. Jeez, you're getting a lot of love in here.
Love it.
Horse, am I scared my job's in jeopardy? I think it is, mate. Chris Davis, Romo to the moon. Well, last week he fucking came back quite well, didn't he? But I guess the thing for me with Romo is he's got a nice ceiling, but his floor is probably the worst out of the big, say, 6 ruckman, isn't it, Hurls?
Yeah, that's the problem. You got to compare him to who you're not having if you have him, and you know you're going to have Gawn and Sherry are the 2. TDK in the right circumstance without a second ruck is with them, but there's a gap to the rest, surely.
Yeah. Gawn last year against Bailey Williams didn't really score that well. Only scored 109 and 100.
But Bailey Williams isn't playing.
He's not. Matt Flynn will keep him to 70, hopefully.
Kizzer's in the cone of the week next week with that kind of stuff. Bailey Williams isn't playing, mate.
Oh, Matt Flynn's a better ruckman than Bailey Williams. Chris Davis, can we get the same stats for Pickles? Well, yes, inside of our Patreon, I will get Brody to drop whatever you need for pickles. But he has sent me some
Apparently,
stuff on Bontempelli.
He likes ice baths, Pickles, so I think you'll like the cold.
Do you know Bontempelli's worst ever 3-round average is 100? Yep, since we've been tracking data. Did you know that before 6 p.m. at night, he averages 118 SuperCoach points per game? And after 6 p.m., he actually averages 138.
How many fights is the average?
I don't have that. Average before round 12 is 128. And after round 12, he averages 124. He averages 130 SuperCoach points when he plays at home versus 121 SuperCoach points when he plays away. And he averages, it's going to be 19 in Ballarat, isn't it? 123.1 SuperCoach points per game when the weather's like that.
I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to with these stats, because at the moment it's 27 weeks of data. I can't wait till we've got a few years of really good data on this stuff.
Yep.
It's going to be really, really cool.
Absolutely. Rookie coach has said that he's in round 24. Jono. Horse, did you steal that mug from? It's a crack. It is. It's a Stein, mate. So my in-laws are in Italy, and then they're going to Greece, and then they're off to Germany. They're out for a couple of months, and I said, because they tune in each week, Graham and Morsey, how you doing? That I was going to drink out of the Stein while they're overseas, and will continue to do so until they get home. So that's my little thing for them. Hamo loves Crouch. He does, Kizza. You're right. Hamo also has the worst mustache in the history of YouTube. We've already addressed this. You go for Geelong.
Yep.
TTSC. Love your work, lads. I have some cash in the bank, so either upgrade Levi Ashcroft to track with one trade, Hewitt on field, or prior to Huswaite and Clay Hall to track, keeps Ashcroft on field. Rookie coach, which way would you go?
I actually love getting prior to Huswaite and getting a dead rook to track. I think that helps keep your cash gen alive. You're moving Deadwood off your team. Yeah, you're spending the extra trade and you could easily do the Ashcroft to track. But in this instance, you've got Ash still making money. Clay Hall's dead. Pry's probably going to drop a poor score and really kill his cash gen, so might as well hop off anyway. I love that second option.
Hurls?
1,000,000%. 100% agree.
Team U VFL, which is the waffle, is collecting Weagles rookies at the moment. 100% it is.
They're
You know
terrible as well. They're terrible.
I need to give this a shout out because this is incredibly kind. But Yaron Gartner has just donated $30.99 to the channel. Outstanding rookie for that cone of the week that Squiddy does. So we appreciate your kindness. And I'm kind of speechless because we do this for enjoyment. We don't do this for the monetary value or any of that sort of stuff or being able to make money. We do this because we enjoy talking SuperCoach and enjoy bringing some laughter into the homes of you guys at home. And we know that each week that AFL footy and AFL SuperCoach is something that brings us together as a community, regardless of whether you're sitting 100,000th or whether you're sitting first. Everyone's treated as equal here on the channel, whether you're male, female, Deadly's height or Hurls' height. It doesn't really matter. Everyone's treated equally, and we just fucking love our footy. So, Yaron, on behalf of Insight, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And to you, Rookie, what an outstanding job filling in for Squid with that cone of the week.
Yaron's an absolute legend in the community. Big props to Yaron. Always just hanging around, always showing the love, showing the support, and never unnoticed, Yaron. So we all appreciate what you do for us. And
what a gentleman. Support. What a gentleman. Thank you very much, Yaron. Davidson to bust this round so I can go Sinclair or Dunks next round. Already went early on Huswaite last round. He's banking cash. I don't mind it.
Yeah, totally fine.
Yeah, if you I guess it depends. Do you have to do it? Like, I mean, can you still do those same two trades next week without trading? Is my only question to that. There's nothing wrong with those two trades, but if you like, because Bus isn't on the bubble, if that's your only upgrade next week, if you're doing one this week, one next week, and no others, then I'd probably be inclined to do both of them next week and just make sure Bus isn't injured or out or something. But otherwise, yes, the actual trades are fine.
John Ogan, how you doing, brother? Coach of the St. Bingers SuperCoach team. Track or Dawson is now playing on my mind, lads. Please help me out. I don't mind Dawson if he goes back to half back, but Track's floor is better than what Dawson's floor is.
Yeah, totally agree. And we need to see something change for Dawson yet. We've kind of watched the improvement, slow improvement, mind you, by Track, but we've seen it get better over the weeks. Whereas Dawson, we've kind of seen the opposite. We've seen him with that really hack-like kick that's just been killing his SuperCoach potential. We need to see him, either get behind the ball or get more outside and not do that contested inside mid where he's just hacking it at the moment. If we start seeing that, then all means jump on. He's going to be a really good price. Until then, you just kind of wait for that turnaround, I think.
Yeah,
I think that's the key. That's the key for me. I think it's definitely Track this week because he's got 120 in his cycle, and so if you like Track, it's this week or you're going to pay more. So definitely jump on him now. Whereas Dawson is still on the way down because he got a 70 last week. I'm really interested in Dawson in a couple of weeks if he shows me something. And I'm probably inclined to think that with the buy that he has at about 480K, I'll ride out at the odd 70 with Dawson. But I'm not going this week because he's still on the way down in cash. So
yeah. Spot on. TR, I agree with you, mate. I'm convinced the match review panel spin a wheel and see what it lands on.
Legit.
Global. G'day, you beautiful humans. Big shout out to Global. He was one of our first ever subscribers to the channel. So thank you for sticking with us, mate. Appreciate it. Horse, I just got smacked by 30 in 2 different games by your brother. I'll never. So Deadly plays competitive 2K basketball on the PS5. And yeah, my brother is a lot better than I at it. So
you're also talking to someone who used to play 2K very competitively.
Yeah.
So,
you playing the ANZPL and all those sorts of leagues?
No, I did not get that competitive. I don't think my mental health could deal with that.
Yeah.
More importantly, because it is very taxing. I have done a few comps in my times, like weekend tournaments with some 2v2 sort of stuff back in the day. So I know how you feel, Deadly. It's not a great feeling. Hope you get your therapy, Deadly.
Much love, mate. Thank you very much. Corey, do we trade in Sardis? Zatziki? No.
Can I offer something to Corey?
And he's been muted. No, Corey, you're not trading him. No, Hurls, go ahead, mate.
No, well, Corey's been showing us the team over the last few weeks in the Patreon and stuff, and I think from memory there was a bit of a rookie bench problem in the midfield, if I remember correctly. And so if I was in that situation, and I also think I remember that you've got 3 boosts left, if those two are true and I'm on my memory is correct, I would consider Sardis for a dead rook because you've got so many dead rooks and because you've got so many boosts. But otherwise, I'm a bit too nervous about Sardis.
Yeah, I'm really nervous about Sardis, especially with Caldwell. Who else is coming back?
It's just Shield.
Shield.
It's just the Shield role. It's him, and they play a similar style, and they don't want to play them both. And he trusts the elder bloke. Yep. So
Scott's going through his phase where he's got a love affair with Shitterfield.
Yeah. If they did, I'll tell you which move I would love to see for Sardis' sake and for Essendon's sake. I'd love to see Harry Jones out of the team, and I'd love to see them go with the extra mid because I think we're out of balance. We're too tall. And if they did that, Sardis would be a lock every week. That would be fine then.
Yeah. Chris, I'm backing in a change with Dawson with Crouch out. I'd love to see it. And if that's the case, awesome. 498K. He's got a break even of 104. So even if he goes 120 this week, he's probably only going to get to about 505K. So if we see that role change like we've seen with Rosie and he goes back and he's not playing out of stoppages and he's getting the ball fed to him across halfback, gets the occasional kick out, does what he needs to do across there, then rookie, it's going to be hard to say no.
Look, if we see that turnaround, I have a boost left. I will be willing to burn it to get Dawson in next week if I see that turnaround because at that value, you just can't. It's going to be a purple patch with Crouch out. You'd
Mhm.
hate to miss it and then get him in when you can facilitate it, and then he goes back to this horrible inside role with Crouch's back. So
For sure.
yeah, if that role's changed and we see that this week, again, he's not going to change too much in price.
No,
You can bet I'm locking in that trade in next week.
100%, mate. Dawson did get 134 with Crouch out. Awesome. If he gets 134, he goes up to about 507K. It doesn't go up that much, and he's still very attainable next week. G'day, Ben. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Short to track. Yes. Jaden Shit should not be in your team anymore. Marias to Huswaite or Lashcroft and Max Hall to track and Huss. Phil, Levi, and Max Hall have more money to make. You brought up a good point before, Rookie, that you're weighing up the money that's going to be made in the scores in track versus the money that Levi Ashcroft could potentially make. If he makes you another 40K, but then track goes up 60K, you're effectively losing anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. I will say it's a different case for Max Hall, who's pretty much helped reset some of that cash gen because his break even, I believe, is in the 20s, whereas Ashcroft's is in the 40s, and it's ever so closely getting nearer to his average. Especially if he stinks it up this weekend. Max Hall's a very different case. I would be keeping Max Hall as long as you can, purely because he's got a lot longer to go and a lot more cash to make versus an Ashcroft. Ashcroft, we're hoping for a spike score this weekend to keep that cash in going. If he stinks it up, it's almost a trade out over the next 2 weeks. Even if Max Hall does 50s and 60s, you've probably still got 3-4 weeks out of him until he really gets to that concern period of wanting to trade him out. So I don't like the trade idea of trading out Max Hall. I don't mind just doing the one to get Huswaite in and just leaving Ashcroft there. Again, just know that track you might lose out 15 or 20K. So just have that in your calculations on whatever you do. But yeah, just as a general thought with trades and rookies and all that sort of stuff, as Horse said, do try to keep in mind if your target, whoever it is, if they're going up by an X amount and your rookie's only going up by half that, it might be better to go early. And that's not always going to be the case. But just check, just in case.
Yeah. So they played Adelaide Oval this week, where I believe the temperature's meant to be okay. Hurls, can you check that out while we're talking about that? Because I have some stats for Dawson that I can read to you once you tell me what the weather's going to do.
Ooh.
But when it's nice and sunny, that's right, nice and sunny, he averages 111. When he plays before 6 p.m., he averages 111.5. After round 12, we've only got 1 year's worth of data though, but last year after round 12, he averaged 111. So it's all pointing to around 111. Have you got the weather there for Adelaide, mate?
Yeah. Jane Bunn just called. 25 Saturday in Adelaide.
25. So when it's 25 or hotter, he averages 127 SuperCoach points. So it's all pointing towards having a good week this week.
There you go.
They're the type of numbers that you can get within our Patreon, ladies and gentlemen. The link is in the description below. Brody has the stats, the figures on everyone that's played AFL since the start of 2024. So it's all there for you and readily accessible. Is there any other questions that we need to go through? Jono's going, do we like Shees into Gorn, Hurls?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's fine.
I'm doing it. That's exactly my VCNC this week.
Yep. Again, Junkies Gorn, Levi and Hall into track and Hustwaite, leaves you with one bossed. What's a
Boss.
One boss. The only other thing I'll say about these kind of trades, just who are your rookies that are left?
Yeah.
It's my only worry with trading out everyone that you trust. I agree with Rookie about Hall. I would hold him if I could, assuming you're talking about Max Hall and not Clay Hall. If it's Clay Hall, get rid of him.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Correct. Yeah. If
Max
it's
Hall, I'd probably keep.
Yeah.
Max Hall, Clay Hall, get rid of him. Go.
Scorched Earth, does Dacos get the tag this week? Oh, it's going to be Atkins if anyone, but probably not.
I mean, they'll get an attempted tag.
Yeah. Ange, how you doing? Miss you, mate. Good to see you doing well. Can we permanently trade Deadly to Rookie? With Squiddy back next week could be an elite show. I don't know. What's your price? What's your price, Rookie? What would you go for the SuperCoach?
I can't say it online. That's a backdoor conversation, mate.
Okay. Right. Well, I'm running at about 79K. You would never slap the C on me. Hurls is about Hurls is up there with Bontempelli and Butters, mate. He's nearly 700k, this guy. You'd see him every day of the week. Yes, I know my mic's gone. Just having a little bit of issues here in the background. But, Rookie, where can the people at home find you, mate?
Yeah, so they can find me on YouTube and X at RookieCoach AFL. Usually just post updates and all that final locked-in trades on X, but you can find usually 2 videos a week, you being a round review and a trade talk where we go through injury reports, trades, VCC options. But more importantly, the most fun part while you come to the channel is the SuperCoach After Dark streams, which happen on Saturday nights, mid-round, to get your therapy sessions in, your welfare checks, but also just to get a little bit wild, a little bit unfiltered, and just have a bit of fun.
Awesome. Looking forward to eventually being invited one of these days. Thanks for never inviting me, arsehole, but we'll get there one day.
I thought going too late on Saturday was past your bedtime.
He's up there, young whippersnapper. 6 beers deep on a Saturday night. That's when I'm at my best.
We've only just met, but you could have been describing me there too, Rookie. I know that we've only just met, but yeah.
Mate,
I mean, it's
maybe
else. I mean,
maybe 8:30 Perth time I'm in bed. Come on, that's like 3 a.m. in Victoria.
Yeah.
Hurls, where can the people at home find you, mate?
Absolutely everywhere. No, on Twitter is where I do my best arguments. So if you want to get some arguing going on or some controversial opinions, in there or in our Patreon. I love our people in our Patreon. They were
they're awesome.
Talking about anything to do with SuperCoach and their teams, and we'll just give them any advice and have some fun and banter. So that's where you can probably find me most of the time.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do us for tonight's stream. RookieCoach, thank you very much for joining us. And as a guest on our show and taking the time out to facilitate conversation regarding AFL SuperCoach with our viewers at home and the nearly 500 people that have joined us this evening, I'm going to send you a Standard Squeeze pack. Thanks to the guys at the Standard Squeeze. It's our way of saying thank you for doing God's work here.
Well, thanks for having me on, boys. It's been an absolute pleasure. You guys in the community have been great. Don't send Deadly for me. I will give him some beard oil, though, to help grow that mo.
He needs more than that. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do us for tonight. Tomorrow night, 6:25 Victorian time, which is like midday in Perth. We're going live. As soon as teams drop, Deadly and I, 35 minutes right here in the studio, live to you at home, going through everyone that's been dropped, your rookies that have been chosen, strategy around which players are coming in and who you need to look out for in your SuperCoach teams this week. That's why we call it the panic room, because you've got about an hour between the teams dropping and the first ball being bounced between North Melbourne and Essendon. So we're going to be there to help you live in the comments. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you then. Peace.
Peace.